Hey y'all, it's Nana. Today we are healing peanuts. Healing, Hilling. That sounds funny. Healing peanuts with a Farmall Cub. And Pawpaw's over at the barn now getting ready to put the attachments on. Let's go see what attachments he uses and see how that works out when we get done. So, come on, let's go see. Welcome to Pawpaw's Piddle and Patch, where we grow it, can it, fix it, and share a little red dirt wisdom along the way.
All right, first thing we got to do is take this furrow opener off of here from where we plowed up potatoes. And that's my least favorite thing to take off, but luckily you don't have to do it but a couple of times in a year. We'll try to just get this side loose and then unhook the other side and slide it out. Move around to the other side. There's nothing on here rusty because I dealt with rusty bolts the last week. But the weight of this thing is you got to get them just far enough to get them started good. There it goes.
What are you taking off? Nuts?
Uh-huh. And the bottom clamp piece right here.
Let me see it. Looks heavy.
This ain't heavy, that's heavy. And now I'll just slide it out and let it fall. This thing, I don't have it back on there straight, but it don't seem to matter. But we planted potatoes with it, and this year we used it to dig the potatoes. We previously had used a middle buster on the back of a bigger tractor, but this thing, they got down plenty deep enough. But what was nice, it didn't throw so much dirt out to the side. So our going through with a potato fork trying to look for any hid potatoes was, I don't know, probably what, twice as fast, something like that.
Yes, it was much better this year.
We didn't have to move so much dirt to find any that was hid.
Yeah.
So I went over to the neighbor had some planted and went over and ran through his and then come back and helped him pick them up. And he did probably 150 feet of them, and it took us 10 minutes maybe. And from beginning to end, we was done.
Yeah.
All right, this is the new pieces I put on the other day. We're gonna see if it'll be where I need it to be, and see how far I need to get this back to get it up in there. And get them the height that I want. I have no idea how far I'm gonna put them all the way in. And come up about that high because I want it a little deeper than what I'm gonna put on the back. Get on this thing right. Hopefully get it a little tight before it pops loose.
What is that called?
I think depends on where you're at. Turning hoe or a cultivator sweep.
Yeah.
Struggling with that wrench every time I hit the hammer. This thing's old enough to where it loosens back up. All right, I'll go do the other side. But what I didn't mention, I was messing with old bolts last week because just got this thing last year and I hadn't been around any of the older stuff. Probably been when I was in my 20s, and I done forgot half of what I saw and did then. But this didn't have these toolbars out here. They had, I think it's on the other side, but they had a piece like the pipe basically that had this welded into it, where I've got a piece out there in the barn that they could put a straight beam across with a ring on it, and he had a planter that's an old cold planter you would use with a mule, and it would go up under there and hook on that bar and then tie into the back. And I'm not going to use it for the size stuff we got. It's a whole lot easier to take that Hoss seeder out there and I'll ride this through there and just make wheel marks basically is all I'm doing, and then push that thing right down between the wheels. That's how we did all them rows. And I'm not going to get out there and put out string and worry about all that. We're straight enough just following the path between those wheels. But without this, when I had these other discs here, they were on extensions when we got it, but you could really only get them up inside or flip it around and remount them and maybe put them out here. But it's a lot easier to adjust using this. And for corn with it, just barely a little bit more, it did about what we wanted it to do. Now, the nice thing is, when I loaded up all the stuff with this, we had about 9 of these shanks, but I didn't have any of these cuffs. At least got enough of them, but the problem, I mean, they're all short. So depending on what I'm putting on here, luckily these things are kind of long. Where but I had to put them just right up at the top. All right, that'll probably hold it because they do not come loose real easy. All right, last thing is to put these scratchers on the back, because if I'm gonna go down through there, I might as well get it cleaned out. This is one of those things that'd be a lot easier with 3 hands. Just getting them on there, it's the only hard part. Gotta get them centered with the tire. And if all the nuts on here were the same size, that would help. They're pretty close to the same size, but the square one's a whole lot easier. It's close enough. They're a little bit off, but I can't hold them in tighten at the same time to keep them perfect. The only hard part, like I said, is these nuts are slightly different size. I'm trying to hold everything straight when you do it. Because this is bent, that's another reason I don't want to mess with it. I didn't have to fiddle with it so much as I did the other one because it gets hung up there and it kind of stays better. So, looking at my glasses, you can see what it's like when it's about 9 o'clock in the morning here. It doesn't take very much effort to
break a sweat.
To start sweating. So now we got to go unhook the wire, drop the electric wires on the fence. We can get through. And like I said, those are not perfect. There's bent pieces. But it does a good enough job to where I'm not going to replace them.
This is our first year growing peanuts. So he's going to go and do a second run, get it just a little bit deeper.
Now, I hate buying little bags and stuff at called a fertilizer place, and they didn't have anything. I've got gypsum in a 50-pound bag, but it's like a granular, where this is powder. I'm assuming it needs to be working a little faster because these things are starting to bloom. Hopefully this powder will do what it's supposed to do. I don't think it takes that much. I'm just going to sprinkle some down there. Anything's better than none. I don't know exactly how much. The recommendations was all over the place. So if I throw a handful out every few feet, that'll be close enough to what they were recommending. And I almost messed up because it said to leave the dirt undisturbed after you put it down is one thing I pulled up and read. I would have put it down and then threw dirt over the top of it, but that ain't what it said to do. I went back and made a second pass to get what I thought was enough dirt. Not having used those shovels, turning hose, whatever you want to call them, I didn't have it set quite deep enough the first time to do what I wanted to do, but it's about right. There was a lot of little ones I was afraid would get covered up. And I'm going to call it good enough because I think as long as we got this ridge down each side for them to drop down in, it'll be about right. One thing I didn't mention earlier, I should have probably, is about where those peppers are on up through there 6 years ago, 5 years ago. If you remember, there was, I guess somebody had a smaller garden here and they had piled all their debris and stuff up there.
Oh my gosh, I remember.
And it took several days of, there was stuff big enough I had to use a chainsaw to cut it. I couldn't push it over.
It was obvious that there was a garden here. The lady that lived here, her husband had passed about 10 years before her, and so this garden sat undisturbed for a while, so we had quite a bit of cleanup to do and just getting it back to just good condition. But yeah, in the center there was a big debris pile.
Don't do this on a real windy day. It's got a breeze, I guess, from storms that might pop up in this heat. This powdery stuff, it blows it all over the place.
Yeah, but I am thankful for that breeze. That is nice. It is starting to get very warm and humid. I don't mind summertime, but I do not love Georgia humidity.
Well, I don't mind summer at all. You begged me to turn the heat on, or the air on.
Yeah, I do want some air.
And
I don't mind being cold in the winter. But I don't want to be
I'm the
hot in
one that
summer.
likes it where you're almost sweating, and once it gets past about 10 o'clock, it's more than I want to deal with. If you're doing anything, moving around, it's not that bad if you're in the shade somewhere. But out here, there won't be any shade till about 7 o'clock tonight.
Yeah.
Beginning of the week, when I was pulling up all those weeds, it was cloudy in the mornings.
Well, that wraps up the peanut healing. Thanks for sticking around. Y'all come see us again. I don't mind summertime, but I do not love Georgia humidity.
Well, I don't mind summer at all. You begged me to turn the heat on the air on,
Yeah, I do want some air.
and
I don't mind being cold in the winter,
but
but I don't want to be
I'm the
hot in the
one that
summer.
likes it where you're almost sweating, and once it gets past about 10 o'clock, it's more than I want to deal with. If you're
Yep.
doing anything, moving around, it's not that bad if you're in the shade somewhere. But out here, there won't be any shade till about 7 o'clock tonight.
Yeah.
Beginning of the week, when I was pulling up all those weeds, it was cloudy in the mornings.